This is KFGO For A Cause, brought to you by Neil Van Dam and the Van Dam Financial Group, where we tell you about cool nonprofits in our area making a difference. And this is all brought to you by Neil Van Dam and that team at Van Dam Financial. And this was actually a discussion in JJ and I's office the other week. We were like, you know who we haven't had on for KFGO For A Cause is the Cats Cradle shelter. And they are doing a lot in our neck of the woods for our little pet community and adoptions around our area. And Gail Vensky, I should have asked how to say your name before we went on the air. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
Oh, good.
That's perfect.
Okay, perfect.
You're one of the very few that get it right.
Gail Vensky is the executive director of Cats Cradle Shelter, and they're right here in Fargo, North Dakota. Gail, welcome to KFGO Radio.
Well, thank you for having me, Amy. I'm super excited to visit with you this morning.
Well, and I'm super excited for you to tell us, first, just tell us who Cats Cradle Shelter is, how long you've been around, what's the history of your organization in Fargo?
Well, Cats Cradle was started by me and four of my friends who were all volunteers with Minn Kota Paws. We were doing spay-neuter surgeries and things like that, and two of us started kind of randomly rescuing cats from the pound. Got in a little bit of trouble for it because it got pretty big, but the director was gone, and she asked me to go to the pound and pick up a cat that was declawed for her neighbor. And my friend Carol, I said, do you want to go with me? So she said, yeah. We walked in there and there were 7 cats there, and 2 of them were declawed. And I went, well, gosh, I don't know which one she's going to want, so we should probably take both. And then I looked at Carol and said, how many carriers do you have in your car? And she said, I think I have 5. So walking through the pound, you're looking at those little eyes staring at you, and you're like, well, I can't leave that one behind. So eventually we kind of went, we'll take that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. We'll be back for the other 2 tomorrow. And we laughed, and we thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be in trouble. And I got a call from the director, and she said, so I hear you've been shopping. Just like that. Like, I said, yes. Am I fired from my volunteer job? And she said, no, I know you'll find homes for them. Well, that's all it took. Carol and I were on a mission at that point. And we started rescuing cats and holding open houses. And eventually it became a little bit bigger than I think what anybody anticipated as far as the rescue side. And we ended up forming our own 501c3 and splitting from, getting the cats out of paws so they could focus on their mission. And that was in November of 2011 that we got our building, that we found a building that would suit the 50 cats that we had. And we did some remodeling, and in 3 weeks we opened back up as Cats Cradle Shelter.
Wow.
So that's kind of how we started. That was in winter of 2011.
You guys were on a mission, man.
We were on a mission. We filed for our own nonprofit and our 501c3. I believe it took about 6 months for our 501c3 to come through. I think it was June or July of 2012 that we, were fully under our own 501c3. So it took We were scared. We were terrified. We didn't know what we were doing. We had very little money. I got on the phone and I said, "Hey, we're a new nonprofit starting out. Can you donate this, that, or the other thing?" And I think we got pretty much everything for the remodel was donated except for some flooring, and everything else was. We put up walls. We added doors. We tore out all the moldy carpet, replaced it with tile and linoleum, and off to the races we went. And we ended up bringing our 50 cats over in December. I think it was December 17th, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Of 2011.
Now, having a shelter for pets is a lot of work. Like there's a reason why there aren't an abundance of them around, right? Even though we could use them, there's a reason why there's not. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of love and dedication, and quite frankly, money. Like we all know how expensive. I have a cat and 2 dogs at home. I know how expensive it is to care for animals. And so when you put that on a larger scale, like you're caring for 50, this is a lot of time and resources.
That was just that first year. We outgrew our current space. What ended up happening was we ended up expanding our foster program. So, there's been times that we have upwards of 250 to 270 cats in our care,
Wow.
with maybe 60 or 70 being in foster home and, 180 to 200 in foster care. And you're not wrong when you say it takes a lot. It takes commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It takes determination. It takes a lot of love. It takes a lot of your emotional, it's such an emotional business because there's so many hard decisions to make almost weekly. There's just, these animals are out there. And with cats, in Fargo-Moorhead, before we started, there was between 400 and 700 on an annual basis. It kind of wavered between those two numbers of how many cats were being euthanized in the three Fargo pound, the Fargo pound, the Moorhead pound, and the West Fargo pound. When we opened officially, we had our grand opening in January of 2012. And when we opened, the first month in January, Carol and I went to the Fargo pound with, I think it was 2 or 3 crates, and handed them over to the gal who was running the pound at the time. And it was taking her a little bit longer to come back with the cats than she normally did. She came back and we could tell she'd been crying. And my immediate response was, "Are you okay? Did you get bit?" Because I thought, maybe she was trying to load somebody into a kennel and got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, with tears in her eyes, she said, "You guys don't understand how much you've changed my life." And we didn't really understand where she was going with that, but she went on and said that she had been there about 7 years, and she said the last task of her day, every day, was to euthanize a cat or a dog that there was no room for in the shelters. There was just nobody to take them. Cats were much more often being euthanized because they weren't being claimed. Dog owners tend to claim their animals, and for some reason cats were just like, well, we'll get another cat. They didn't want to pay the fees to get them out, so they would leave them. And she said, since you guys opened, she goes, January of 2012 was the first month in the history of the city of Fargo that they had not euthanized a cat. And she said, I used to cry myself to sleep every night, and I haven't done that for a month. And we looked at each other and we looked at her and we said, well, you're not going to have to do that again, because we're going to take them, whether they're sick or injured or, old, unadoptable, it used to be that a cat with an upper respiratory was deemed unadoptable because there was nobody to take it. There just wasn't enough room, and rescues, of course, are going to take the ones that are the healthiest and the most adoptable. Mm-hmm. And we were taking the ones that weren't. So those are the ones that she was having to euthanize. And I'm happy to tell you that since we opened, we have kept that promise. There's been only 2 cats that passed through we thought one rescue was taking them. They thought we were taking them. They were kind of on the border feral, and those slipped through the cracks 4th of July week in 2012 and were euthanized. But other than that, there have been no adoptable animals or cats euthanized since we opened. And the definition of adoptable has changed, because you don't have to be healthy. You don't have to be a kitten or young. You can have issues. You can have the cat can have health issues or injuries. We're going to take care of those.
Wow.
So it's changed kind of what has been deemed adoptable. And that's something we're pretty proud of.
Yeah, that is incredible. Incredible. Gail Venske is with us. She's the executive director of the Cats Cradle shelter here in Fargo. What an incredible badge of honor for you guys, too, to know that your mission is being met and the impact that you're making. Now, I don't mean to jump to this, but I'm excited because we waited to do this interview because you said you had an announcement, so I'm all excited about it. Can we get to the announcement part? Can you share something big with us?
You are getting the scoop We decided, well, when we started 15 years ago, we signed a 15-year lease, 15 years with 5-year renewal terms. Our lease is up in April. My goal has always been to be able to purchase a building by the end of this lease, and that dream has come true. And we have closed now on purchasing the Town and Country Credit Union Bank building over on 32nd Avenue in South Fargo. It's 1501 32nd Avenue. We're super excited. We've got a lot of work to do. There's, remodeling. We need to rip out the drive-through and get that enclosed for colony spaces. There's colony rooms and storage and things like that. So for the first time, we have gone from renters to being able to provide a permanent home for Cats Cradle Shelter.
Wow.
So we're super excited about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been hard keeping the secret because it's been in the works for a while, and
for so long.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's terrifying and exciting at the same time, but I think that we've got so many great people in our organization that have been with us for years, from the beginning, and their heart and determination makes us who we are, and they're going to be there with us. So they'll get us through whatever challenges we face. We've got a lot to do, and we're kind of in the permitting process right now. But we've already gotten one response from the city, and we just have to do a couple of tweaks on our floor plan. Not really tweaks on the floor plan, but just a couple of safety things that we need to take care of. And then we should be off and breaking ground here, hopefully within the next, 2 to 4 weeks.
Wow, that is incredible. Congratulations. Okay, it's going to be at 1501 32nd Avenue South. It's going to be now the permanent home of Cats Cradle Shelter. Now, this doesn't come without some time and treasure in it. So are you looking for money, volunteers? Like, where are you at in that process? Because this is going to take a lot.
It is going to take a lot. Of course, with the amount of, purchasing the building, we did, take out a mortgage. We've got our estimate, I think, came in at about 389 or 394, I think was the total. That's just the, estimate of the budget for the remodel and the addition. So we definitely have to raise some money. We will be probably rebranding as well, and we're still in the talks of how we want to go forward as far as, do we want to change our logo? Do we want to just change the colors? Do we want to, how do we want to handle that? If we're going to rebrand and do a new logo, now's the time.
Yeah, now is the time
to make that. Yeah, and we've got time to make that logo recognizable before we even move in, if we start changing it now. But we want to rebuild our website. There's just so many things we want to do. And of course, that takes money. So we will be, asking for donations, and it's hopefully we'll be able to raise it all. And if not, we just, we keep plugging along and doing what we've done. We started out with, $12,000 in our pocket and no place to live in 2011. And we managed to, find a place, build a business, and make an impact on the community that I believe is, it's pretty awesome. So people volunteering is something that we run on volunteers. That's our organization. The heart of our organization is our fosters and our volunteers. They are so committed, and they have been there. We're a family.
Yeah.
It's when we invite somebody to foster for us and get them signed up and onboarded, we don't say welcome to the company. We say welcome to the family, because that's what we are. That's what we are. We love each other. We love our mission, and we support each other as much as we can. And trust me, there's days when, you need all the support you can get, because the emotional roller coaster that you're on in this business it's a tough ride sometimes.
Let's
you know?
talk about that though. Let's talk about how to be a foster family, what you look for in a foster family. What is that process like? If someone does have a heart for cats, and if they've been listening all the way through, then they must a little bit,
Sure.
or want to help your mission at Cats Cradle in Fargo. What is that process of becoming a foster family like?
Well, usually we post for our fosters on our Facebook page, and every once, often I get a new inquiry. What we require for a foster home is, we need to have somebody who is going to be able to monitor health, um, make sure that they're gaining weight, because usually it's the kittens. It's either kittens or it's special needs adults or recovery patients who are maybe recovering from an amputation or an eye removal or something like that, or maybe a dental and they've got an infection or they need medication. So those, there's lots of different types of fosters. There's bottle fosters, there's mom and baby fosters, there's special needs fosters, and old cats that need a quiet life. So depending on what your lifestyle is like and what your home environment is, we try to place them accordingly. We do require that, at least initially, that there is a separate location in your home, whether it's a bedroom or a large bathroom, or preferably something without carpet, because you're going to have a litter box in there and there's going to be litter on the floor. And having a separate space away from your personal animals. If you don't have any personal animals, there's no quarantine that needs to be thought about. But if you have, say, you've got a dog or you've got a cat, you don't know how they're going to react. We don't know what our animals have been exposed to prior to coming to us, so we always have to quarantine them, and we start them out on dewormers and vaccinations, and they can't be around other animals until that's, taken full effect. So you have to have a space. If you have your other animals, you have to understand that we cannot pay for your vet bill. So if you choose to let that cat out into your home and integrate it with your pets and somebody gets injured, we can't be responsible for your vet bills. But they care for them. Kittens stay in foster care until they're about 12 weeks old, and that's when we adopt them out. We don't adopt out at 8 weeks. We adopt out at 12 for a couple of reasons. Way back in the early days, we used to check with our fosters or our adopters when they were adopting 8-week-old kittens. And we were getting a lot of feedback that, oh boy, we love her and she's super sweet and cuddly, but when she gets playing, she bites kind of hard on our hands, or she nips a little bit, or they get sick. Well, the reason they get sick is because they're 8 weeks old and their immune systems aren't fully developed. And you're not only taking them away from their siblings, you're taking away from their mom and their foster family, which is the only home they've ever known. And then you place them in a home that they don't know all by themselves, and it's stressful, and that can trigger stress-induced illnesses. So we wait until they're 12 weeks old. That gives mama cat and siblings 4 more weeks to teach them boundaries and discipline. It allows 4 more weeks for the immune system to develop and get stronger to be able to handle those stress-induced triggers. And we have more success. I believe we have better behaved, more well-rounded adults if you wait a little bit longer. So even though that's an added expense to the shelter, because we are housing them and feeding them and paying for medical for an additional month for each cat, we feel it's the best interest of the cat, of the kitten.
Yeah.
Gives them the best chance of a successful adoption. So
yeah,
that's an
I love
extra
that.
expense.
Yeah. Are most of your foster families houses with existing animals or pets, or most of them without?
I would say most of them have existing pets.
Yeah.
People who want to foster,
yeah, obviously have their own pets.
they have a love for pets. One thing that I did during COVID, everybody was emptying their shelters out during COVID, and I was reluctant to do any type of sale to kind of push that, because I was worried about, I was getting a lot of calls. Hey, I'd like to adopt a cat. Since I'm working from home right now, I'm remote, so I can take a cat, but they're on the road or they're gone during a normal. And I'm like, well, what's going to happen when you go back to work? Are you going to have time for this cat?
Yeah.
And they're like, I never thought about that. So I did get a lot of fosters that way. I said, we can get you some companionship during this downtime where you're working from home without having a situation where you're going to end up returning the cat after you go back to work a year from now or whenever that's going to be. And now the animal's bonded to you and loses another home. So we turned those inquiries into fosters.
So
and it worked
smart.
Great.
Good
Yeah,
job.
Yeah. We didn't have the returns that a lot of shelters across the nation
So
had.
smart.
There was a big boom of returns after COVID. There was. So I didn't have that. So I turned them into fosters. I lost those fosters when they went back to work, but there was not, it helped during the time and everybody got what they were looking for. So it worked out. We can do that with people who even can't afford to adopt. They maybe want that companionship, but they can't financially commit to the vet bills or, the emergency care that might be needed. I've turned many of those into fosters as well.
Yeah.
I want a cat, but I'm on Social Security and I don't know if I can afford the vet bills. It's like, well, gosh, why don't you foster for us? Because you just keep getting new kitties all the time and you get and they love it. They do. It's especially some of our retired community members, it's such a meaningful thing for them to do. They definitely fall in love, and it's the first litter that you foster and have to part with is difficult, but it gets easier because you realize that we call it the love stop. You're the love stop.
Yes, I love that.
You're the one between us and their home, their forever home. So, we've got a fantastic foster program, and hopefully we'll gain more fosters.
Gail Vensky has been with us, Executive Director of Cats Cradle Shelter, with big news that they've got a new spot in town, 1501 32nd Avenue, but it's going to take a lot of time and treasure to make it that. So if you're someone who has something to provide, maybe they're a graphic designer and they want to help you with that new logo, or someone in construction who can provide something somewhere along the line for this process, or you have some of that treasure, that money to make this happen. catscradleshelter.org, or can they just call the shelter, Gail?
They can call the shelter, or they can email. They can email either adopt, ADOPT, at catscradleshelter.org, or Gail V at catscradleshelter.org. So either email would work, or they can call the shelter and leave a voicemail. We'd love donations. We've got to raise a lot of money. We'd be appreciative of any help we could get.
Gail Vensky, Executive Director of Cats Cradle Shelter, thanks for being a part of Fargo and for sharing the mission here on KFGO today. We really appreciate it. And sharing your big news. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Amy. I really appreciate you giving us the time to tell our story and break the news. We're super excited, and it's going to be a new future for us, and a permanent one, which is that's our goal. Making a permanent place for Cats Cradle, gives us the confidence that our mission isn't going to just dwindle away. When Carol and I and the rest of the founders are long gone, Cats Cradle will still be going.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Gail. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.